Hello everybody, welcome back to a brand new episode of F1 22 Driver Career Mode here on the channel. Hope you're all having a great day. Today, we are actually headed to Portimao here in Portugal as we are ready for the Portuguese Grand Prix weekend. We will be switching out the gearbox for, well, a brand new gearbox, which means we're going to be taking a, once again, a grid penalty here from qualifying going into the Grand Prix. Not necessarily ideal, but it is what it is. A lot of grid penalties get handed out late in the season, not only to myself, but other drivers as well. And I'm sure we're going to see some more for other drivers today, landing here in the Portugal area now, getting ready for some free practice one. Fortunately, supposed to be a nice dry weekend for us. It is supposed to rain at the very beginning of qualifying, but it'll probably be dried up before Q1 is even over. So I don't think we're going to even have to make a lap on a intermediate or wet tire compound here. As you would see myself getting ready to get on circuit here in Free Practice 1 Portugal. This is a very, very difficult circuit for myself here. Anytime I've come here in open lobbies, which was my only experience at the circuit in F1 22 at least, was open lobby racing. This is my first ever single player experience at this track in this game. And yeah, I struggle here in open lobbies, and you know, I'm gonna struggle here today, I think, in career mode a little bit as well. I was definitely concerned with the pace that I was going to be bringing to the table here for this McLaren team. Fresh off the news, of course, that we got McLaren Chevrolet happening next season. You see right here, though, going for a bit of a spin in practice. So yeah, I was struggling with the car and the circuit here, but we would wrap up Free Practice 1 P9. Our teammate Ricardo there at the top of the standings. Albon, Zhou Guanyu, and Esteban Ocon all collectively do not make a single lap there in Free Practice 1, but we jump straight through into Saturday morning qualifying, or Saturday afternoon qualifying here. You can see it is wet, but the rain would move out very quickly. So before Q1 was even over, the rain was gone, so I never even had to make a lap on the intermediate compound tires. So we come straight through to the end, and you can see the rain had just passed through, even a couple of droplets still on the camera, but still the conditions of the track were good enough for a dry compound tire, so we're on the softs now. It was really just about putting in a decent lap here and making no mistakes, and we should be okay to make it through into Q2. Shouldn't really be an issue, and you're going to see myself rounding these final few corners and down this run straightaway. We cross the line, we actually go top of the board. Now that's not really representative of the actual pace in this car. It felt it was just more of the changing conditions in the track rubbering up and gripping up, but you can see the pace difference there. Ricardo currently in 5th place, but look at this, Verstappen and Hamilton and Sainz, 3 of them out in Q1. They made their laps at a terrible time, it appears, and they're completely out in Q1. Verstappen, of course, the championship leader, trying to not throw a championship 2 seasons in a row into the hands of Charles Leclerc, but that is a moment that might allow that to happen here, depending on where Leclerc qualifies, and of course if Leclerc needs to take a grid penalty or anything here. You see my attempt though in Q2, late in Q2. Now I went out with enough time to make a second lap if necessary, as I'm currently behind Mick Schumacher in the Haas, my former teammate there from season 1, of course. Now as we round the final couple of corners at this point and trying to get that slipstream across the line, we would go P9, and I get more slipstream because only P9 made me pretty confident I was in trouble here in Q2. So continuing to make a lap, I have a bit of a moment right there, and that's actually going to lose me some time, over a 10.5 loss, but we would find a way to gain it back. But we were down to P11, and we've only gained, well, you can see, 100th of a second is not going to be enough. We're going to cross the line, no slipstream, we go in the red, we're out. Suddenly, it was looking like it was okay, and then just like that, it was looking like, well, that's P11, and our teammate Ricardo on P3, myself, Schumacher, Schwartzman, Latifi, and Tsunoda are all going to be out again. The Williams Porsche, they continue to make gains. I mean, Latifi made Q2, Albon has made Q3 again in P6, but obviously we come up a bit short. It is what it is, but now let's focus in on the Portuguese Grand Prix here from Portimao. Let's head to the grid.
Welcome along then to Portimao, one of the busiest towns in the Algarve and a breathtaking destination that brings tourists from all around the world to the shores of southern Portugal. Today it's the backdrop for the latest round of the Formula One World Championship, and with a circuit this wide, we could be in for a lot of exciting wheel-to-wheel action today. 2.9 miles of track at Portimao feature 15 turns, 9 to the right and 6 to the left. A lot going on at this track, a lot of elevation changes that'll affect the driver's braking and acceleration. Keep an eye out for the DRS zone on the final straight. That'll be the setup for a lot of today's overtaking opportunities. It's time to take take a look at our starting grid for today's race. Kevin Magnussen lines up on pole position, and it's Fernando Alonso alongside. Moving on to the rest of the grid, we have Leclerc, Albon, Esteban Ocon, and Perez. Norris, Mick Schumacher, Ricciardo, they've taken a grid penalty, and Robert Schwartzman. Tsunoda, Joe, Max Verstappen, they'll be starting further back after an earlier grid penalty. And Sainz, Stroll, Gasly, Nicholas Latifi, and Lewis Hamilton. Russell, they've taken a grid penalty, and Golden Boy. That's it then, it's time to go racing as we head down trackside for today's race. Natalie Pinkham joins me once again in the commentary box. It's fantastic to have you with us today. I'm curious though, how do you think the drivers stop those pre-race nerves from becoming overwhelming when you're lining up on the grid?
Well, I imagine they'll be starting to feel the adrenaline as they anticipate the rundown into turn one, a bit like preparing to go into battle. The unknown situation will bring nerves, but that's a good thing. It'll keep them focused on the moment and on their surroundings as we build towards the start of the Grand Prix.
We start from the very back of the grid because not only did the gearbox get replaced, but I also ended up replacing the whole engine because I already knew we had that grid penalty coming, so I decided to give us a fresh engine, take the grid penalties now, and not have to worry for the last two races. Starting on the softs instead of mediums, going to hards, let's get ready to roll here in Portimao.
The formation lap gets underway here in Portugal, and the fans have come out in large numbers. They're all hoping to see an exciting race unfold here today. As the cars come back towards the grid to line up for the start of the race, each driver will be wanting to get the best start they possibly can. And they'll be hoping to finish today's race on the podium, failing that, within the points.
Alright boys, the grid penalties haven't been great to us lately, but I don't see why we can't work our way through the grid just like we have been doing all season long.
We're 100% with you, mate. Do what you do best out there today.
Ready to go then. So yeah, starting at the back of the grid, we already knew we were taking a grid penalty originally with the gearbox change, but you know, starting in 11th and taking a grid penalty, we would have been like 16th place or something like that. Actually, I think it might have been a 10th place grid penalty, so it just made sense to replace the whole engine. We're ready to go racing, work to do, two Mercedes in front of us of Russell, Hamilton, lights out, we're underway. It's Fernando Alonso joining up on the front row with Kevin Magnussen, as well as Charles Leclerc, P3, Alex Albon in 4th place as well. You got Perez and Ocon just behind that battle as well now, but how about Alex Albon turning it up lately here? Look at that send, Mick Schumacher into the side pod of Sergio Perez right there. I don't know how he didn't come out of that with damage, but that was the send of a lifetime, and you know what? Give him credit. It worked. He gained positions, didn't he? And now he might even be sizing up a move on the Mexican down into the corner. No, he doesn't take it, but now you see Albon right there up the inside of Charles Leclerc, and the defending world champion under attack from a Williams Porsche, but he holds on to 3rd place. Alonso settles in behind Magnussen in 2nd. What a weird starting grid, and what a weird race I think this is going to be. We have a lot of different strategies. We got a lot of drivers starting on softs, but a lot of drivers also starting on mediums. It's pretty split 50-50 it kind of felt like, so this could lead to a really interesting dynamic. I myself gained quite a few spots. I literally, as you can see, Hamilton's in front of me. I simply just followed him and moved up into P15, just kind of taking the inside, and now I'm going to show Hamilton how to overtake him after I followed him through overtaking everybody out. So he's going to fight back though around the right side. I'm going to go around the long way, left side, and we're going to take the position right here potentially. No, he's going to still fight back. Hamilton not going to back out of it. We've had a couple of scraps with Lewis throughout this season. A big moment right there, and Sainz is headed into the pit lane. He checked up right in front of the nose of Zhou Guanyu. He pits for wing damage. Now that's the 2nd episode in a row. Sainz, a terrible couple of weeks, and what in the world is happening here? We got cars ghosting inside of each other. That's Hamilton and Zhou Guanyu. I go and pass Zhou, and now also trying to make an overtake on Hamilton. I really stuck my nose in late on that one. I'm fortunate that he decided to be nice and give me the room. Maybe not so nice. He's going to chop my nose right there and make me check up now as we have a huge send from behind into the next braking zone from Lance Stroll, who moves past Zhou. So a wild start here in the opening lap and a half to this Grand Prix. We kick off lap 3, DRS open now or enabled, and you can see Hamilton going around the outside of Robert Schwartzman, the rookie in the Alfa Romeo. I'm going to try and follow through. It's not going to quite work now. I'm going to lunge one up the inside. Hamilton locks up into the corner. We're 3 wide briefly right there. Hamilton loses 2 spots. I'm going to gain 2 spots myself. They're going around the outside of Schwartzman, so a wild kickoff to this Grand Prix. Not really surprised, to be completely honest. Portimao could be a bit wild with some AI here in Portimao, so yeah, I was not surprised to see this kind of start. But we were up to P12, so you know, pretty good for us after we started P20, and we're running down Max Verstappen. Now his championship contender Leclerc still running in 3rd place, but passing once we kind of got settled in. Once everybody got settled in and could get a little bit separated, passing became very, very hard to do. Not only for Max Verstappen, but everybody else, including myself. I got stuck behind Max. We're already on lap 7. You can still see I'm behind him here, so looking for the opportunities. There's not a whole lot of passing opportunities once it comes to Portimao outside of that first lap or two when everyone's together, but you see myself struggling with some oversteer, but we stick with Max. He has oversteer on the exit of the left-hander. That opens the door wide open for myself here, putting the pressure on him. These are the moments we need to capitalize on. He's going to lunge one up the inside of Tsunoda. I nearly lunged one into the back of the Japanese youngster right there, as that nearly went very, very wrong for myself. Fortunately, I did not. However, now, as you can see, they continue to battle it out side by side. Verstappen, he's going to try to go the long way around right there. A little bit of contact right there with the sister AlphaTauri car, but fortunately for Verstappen, he moves up into the point. So me trying to make a move on Verstappen allowed Verstappen to get into the point. So you're welcome, Max, here now, as you see myself moments later now going for the overtake on Yuki, and that's going to move us into P11. Now Tsunoda's not going to give it up quite easily. He stays right there at my left rear, but we do complete the overtake right there down into turn 1. So up into P11 we go. Now Ricciardo and Norris ahead of us. They're scrapping it out. This McLaren hasn't shown the greatest pace here this weekend, that's for sure. Now we thought Ricciardo had a good pace, but then he didn't quite show it as well in Q3, and you can see him struggling right now. He's battling with Lando Norris in that Aston Martin, and then you can see here at the end of it, Ricciardo got the short end of it. Norris would in fact take the position, so he's down to 9th, Ricciardo is. I'm all over the back, however, of Max Verstappen. It looks like we're going to size up a move on him. No DRS for Max right there, so we're going to go to the right-hand side, down this front straightaway, and we're going to go for 10th place. Actually, Max does have DRS now. We just enabled it for some reason really late. I didn't really cut him a break there into turn 1. Considering our history this season, I don't plan on cutting Max any breaks for the rest of the season if we're in a position where we're actually in a fight. So, yeah, it's not going to be easy for him to win this World Drivers' Championship. And right now, Charles Leclerc is still running in P3. I myself coming into the box now at the conclusion of lap 10. So we're going to be sticking to the original strategy, and we're going to be putting on a set of hard compound tires. Now, the field. We started with about 7.5 extra laps of fuel. We were already closing in on half of that fuel tank being used up, and I still, like I said, don't understand how all of a sudden over the last few episodes the fuel consumption is shot through the roof. It is what it is. We just continue to focus on now getting back on track here. And down to P15, obviously got to wait patiently for things to cycle out here, slipping and sliding around. Some drivers on the mediums, of course, so there's going to be a big difference in the pit stop times in terms of when they're pitting and whatnot. You can see myself really struggling to get these hards, these front specific tires to get them heated up. And look at how much I continue to struggle. A couple of corners later, we're going completely off track into the gravel, and that's going to open the door for Tsunoda to get to the back of me. Fortunately, I would kind of get these rears heated up and the front seated up and be able to stretch out the gap, and Carlos Sainz actually had gotten in front of Tsunoda as his tires were already well warmed up and ready to go. You can see Max Verstappen, though, the end of lap 12, starting lap 13, he's into the pits now as well. He puts on a set of mediums, and he's going to come out in front of me because of how sloppy of a first lap I had, running over the curb in turn 1. A big moment there. We thankfully save it. But yeah, Max Verstappen and Perez both the Red Bulls have switched to medium tires after starting on softs like myself. Are they both going to the end on those mediums?
That appears to be their plan, yes.
How the... Well, you hear my reaction. I don't know how in the world they're doing that. Now, as Leclerc and others are pitting later than the Red Bulls, and they're putting on hard compound tires. Here's Alex Albon, another shout out to Albon. I mean, absolutely epic Grand Prix. He's having Magnussen, who was leading, he's going to box, but Fernando Alonso, he boxes a lap later than everybody for the hards, and he's actually going to win the race out of the pit lane. Look at this. He's out in front of Kevin Magnussen, and this is the battle potentially for the win. I don't know how, you know, this far into the Grand Prix, these two are still fighting for the top two, but this battle is not over. Ocon still has to pit, so write him off at the top spot on the leaderboard. But here is Magnussen making a move to the right side. This could be the tussle right here for the victory here, as Alonso, Magnussen, both, of course, Alonso hasn't won since 2012, 2013, or whatever it was, and now Magnussen, well, he's never won in Formula 1 in general. He wants to make it happen here today, but Alonso's going to get the power down, and he stays ahead of Kevin Magnussen. That could be the determining factor right there, and Leclerc is not far behind here now as well. You can see myself passing Ricciardo, all these guys pitting for hards while the Red Bulls went on to those mediums.
It's a bit fascinating that both Red Bulls went with the mediums there, isn't it?
Well, you saw how far the softs went. I honestly think other teams have dropped the ball not doing what Red Bull has just pulled off.
You hear insight from Brundle and Crompty there now as we head down towards the corner of the braking zone, going around the outside. Schumacher on those cold, hard tires, taking advantage of that. So we're going to stick it on the right side and go for that overtake. And we're going to probably be able to complete it right here. Yes, we will. Schumacher, he would actually have to pit because he got in a tussle with Norris and picked up wing damage shortly after. So he would have to actually box and go to the back of the grid here. Now as we move up into P8 on lap 20, going for a spin. A quick 360 no-scope. Just the KD does not get improved. We continue on, but the gap that was getting larger between myself and Verstappen because he's on the mediums just got even larger, and now the gap to Ricciardo just got a lot smaller, 1.9 seconds. Fortunately, I still had good pace in the car. We were 2.5 seconds out in front, but yeah, I mean, Verstappen and Perez, Red Bull Racing has caught everybody off guard here and made a great call, and fortunately though, passing was still very difficult, so they had run down Esteban Ocon and Alex Albon, and they couldn't pass him, not even Perez. As you can see through the grid here, 10 laps to go. Alonso 1.7 seconds up the road from Kevin Magnussen. Leclerc only 0.4 of a second back from Magnussen, but yeah, passing just seems to be impossible here in this Grand Prix, and it doesn't make a lot of sense to me. You know, you got a really long front straightaway, but it doesn't seem to be able to make a difference. Now, I understand that it's difficult to pass on this straightaway right here that we're coming up on, even with the DRS, because you really have to focus on getting a really good run on the car in front of you. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to make it happen. Russell there holding on to the last spot. Lewis Hamilton, not quite sure what's been going on with him again, but you see those lights at the end of the tunnel moments, but then you go back another Grand Prix, and then Hamilton again runs really rough. I'm sure he's just excited to get this season over with. Carlos Sainz, a couple of rough Grand Prix. Latifi and Schumacher, things not gone their way as well. Schumacher had a good Grand Prix going until he had contact with Lando Norris just a few laps prior. That sent him back into the pits with that wing damage that needed to be, of course, sorted out. As we are running P8 here, lap 25 of 33 on an island of my own, 3.9 seconds ahead of Ricciardo, who is actually being run down by George Russell, but I'm 6 seconds behind. As you see a yellow flag up ahead, that's Charles Leclerc. That's stopped. Leclerc has gone for a spin. He's going to get passed by his championship contender, Max Verstappen. There's the replay there. He bottled it all on his own. That might be the championship decided in one go. Leclerc only 1.3 seconds ahead of me. More yellows behind us. This time it's Lando Norris in the Aston Martin. He's pulling off circuit. A mechanical failure there. He's going to be done for the day, so everything's kicking off here all of a sudden on lap 27 as we're going to go for a spin as well. As I said, everything kicking off. I ran over the curb. The safety car is going to be deployed. We lose a couple of positions but stay in the points, and I just simply ran over that turtle sausage curb, whatever you want to call it, and we go for a spin. I just misjudged the corner, and that was not the first time you saw me do it in turn 1 earlier. Safety car is out as we run in P10. I told you guys I was going to struggle, and we've had 3 spins this weekend. 1 in practice, 2 in the Grand Prix. Fortunately, harmless spins, but 1 brings out a safety car because there was the yellow for me and the yellow for Lando Norris at the same time, as Alonso still out in front. But the big story now is after Leclerc bottling it like I did, he's behind his championship contender instead of being in 3rd place, and that's going to be huge for the championship here. And going into the next episode, it's the sprint weekend in Brazil. That's going to be really important for Leclerc to maximize his points in that sprint race for sure now, because Verstappen could lock it up in the next episode. We're back underway racing though. It's 4 laps to go. Fernando Alonso looking for his first win in Formula 1 in a decade. Magnussen, 2nd place, wants his first win in general. We've seen Haas on the podium this season. They've been finding pace, and here they are again with Magnussen up there. And Esteban Ocon in 3rd place. We've talked about Alpine, and I feel like we're not not talking about Alpine enough as I actually get past George Russell, but Alpine started the season with a lot of momentum, but they were not able to keep up with other teams around them. As you see myself giving my teammate Ricardo a break and not sending it up the inside, but all over the back of him. But Alpine fell off hard as we approached the mid-season, but they have had just a sudden random resurgence here, specifically today. And you got Alonso P1, Ocon P3, and imagine an Alpine and Haas dominated podium. They only got to hang on for one more lap here. White flag in the air. DRS on my teammate Ricardo going for a move down towards turn 1 in his final Portuguese Grand Prix. We send it up the inside and clear him there. Got very aggressive in the corner, but we make it happen up into P8, P9 for McLaren. Not a great day for both of us now, as we had 2 spins on the day. You know, just not working out. That safety car obviously saved us there and allowed us to have a chance to pass Ricardo back. But the story really, it's not on me. It's all about Alpine and Fernando Alonso and Haas as well. That's going to be on the podium. Alex Albon's going to be in 4th place. Perez in 5th. Verstappen in 6th, but Fernando Alonso, for the first time since I even got into Formula 1, he is going to round the final corner, and he is going to win here in Portugal. Alonso is back with Alpine as well, both of their cars on the podium. Magnussen sandwiched in between with the Haas. We cross the line. It's P8. It could have been better. It could have been certainly worse as well. We got saved by the safety car coming up for that self-spin, so I'll take that very much so. But what a day. Fortunately, the safety car didn't change anything up front there, as we also get driver of the day. Let's head to the podium celebrations.
Well, that might not have been the finest race in history, but there's no question it was a critical win. Natalie Pinkham, how do you think they were able to set themselves apart today?
I think that smart tyre management on track and very smooth driving definitely assisted in their victory today. That combination meant they got the absolute maximum out of their tyres at all times.
I gotta say, that's probably the most exciting and eventful, boring Grand Prix ever, because there was no passing. I could barely pass. We passed only a couple cars, but nobody else could pass either, aside from just some, you know, kind of very unique random moments here and there, but yet there was a lot of things happening, especially in the last 10 laps of that Grand Prix. So it's like, was that a bad race or was that a good race? I don't know. A lot of stuff happened, but not a lot happened on the actual passing. So kind of a weird one, but yeah, I mean, overall, I myself pretty happy to see Fernando Alonso pick up the victory. It's unfortunate that we couldn't be up there, and as well, I want to see this championship battle go down to the final race again, but Leclerc, one mistake might end his chances, as Verstappen and Perez on those medium tires really helped their pace, and they got P5 and P6. We'll take a look at the standings now, of course, and how it's affected. The gap does change a tiny bit. 34 points between Verstappen and Leclerc. Russell's terrible day puts him 51 points out, so he's not going to be able to make it happen. And we're in this battle with Carlos Sainz right now for 4th in the standings, and Perez not far behind as well. But as well, really quick before we wrap it up, let's take a look at the Constructors standings, and our battle with Mercedes continues. We are 33 points behind them and 32 points between Red Bull and Ferrari. That's going to wrap it up for me. We're going to Brazil in the next one with a sprint race. I'll see you guys then. Have a great day, everybody.